Live. We are live. I think we are live. Hopefully, another disastrous intro to my disastrous streams. I don't know what's going on tonight. It's been a bit of a disaster. Griff, I've sent the link, but if you're okay to like sort of stand by for a while I just sort of do my shit, just gonna like. He's shaking his head. It's like he doesn't want me to do my shit. I just need to do. I just want to do like a little. Yeah. Okay. He's good. He's good. He's good. Yeah. I've got a few things to cover. Griff's going to jump on board in due time. Just got a few things to cover before because Griff wanted to jump on and talk about men, and we can talk about other stuff as well. You know, because I haven't talked with Griff for a while on a live stream. But yeah, just a few things wanted to cover first before we get to that. Because yeah, I mean, I didn't stream last week, so you know, got a few things to discuss. Last week was just Piz was doing his live stream on the Saturday night. Yeah, I'm getting distracted by Griff now in the back room. Just like, yeah, I'm just I'll have to just like avert my gaze from Griffin just while I'm talking. Yeah, so Piz was doing his live stream. Early start last week, so no way it was going to be staying up till 1 a.m. UK time. Not when I'm getting up at like 6 o'clock in the morning to go to work, which is hence why there was no live stream for me as well. But off tomorrow, so late start tonight, all good. Anthony's in the chat. What's up, Anthony? Bunny Army's in the chat. Chris is in the chat. Yeah. So hopefully a few people jump on board. It's, you know, I've only been streaming for like 5 minutes. I'm sure a few people will jump on. And there's Griffin as well. Griffin's just jumped out of the back room, I think, just to chat. So let me, you know, got a few things to discuss tonight. Before, I mean, obviously, I am going to bring Griff on in a while because, you know, I think what it was, I think he's a fan of Men. I like Men, like the film. Nothing, and, you know, if you like Men, you like Men. That's all good. I'm just saying I like Men in the film sense. You know, that's all. I'm going to go any further than that. So yeah, so tonight, a couple of points to cover tonight. Yeah, I say apologise for last week's absence. You know, yeah, I do try to keep these to every single Tuesday night. Obviously, it's not always possible because of just real world shit. Going forward, a week hopefully there will be a live stream. There will be a live stream next Tuesday, barring any sort of like major catastrophe. A week Friday, Chris and myself and Griffin will be, well, I'm assuming unless anything's changed, I'm sure they're still on board for it. A week Friday, 7 p.m. Eastern, midnight UK time. Friday the 13th, par 3, 40th anniversary live commentary. I say live commentary, it's more just like a few guys get together and just like watch a film and just chat shit. I wouldn't really call it a commentary. But yeah, like Friday the 13th, par 3, live watch along, I would call it. I'd call it a live watch along. I think that's a more accurate description. So yeah, week Friday, yeah, because it's the 40th anniversary of the Friday the 13th par 3, almost to the day that we do it. And also we do it on the Friday the 12th of August. So, you know, close enough to Friday the 13th as you can get, really. So that's a week Friday. And then the following Friday, I think it's myself and Chris, aka Slash Home Video, will be doing our 1993 pop culture retrospective, which is basically where we did a 1996 video a few weeks ago where we just take, you know, the pop culture of a certain year in the 90s. Last time was 96. This is going to be 93. And we just like, you know, strip it down to the bare bones and just like go through what worked, what didn't work, what was good, what wasn't good. And 93 was a pretty stacked year, but maybe not like the greatest year for horror movies, because it was during that great drought of like just of anything of any relevance. But there were nuggets of gold to be found amongst the shit. And that's kind of a reference to Leprechaun, which I did watch today. The nuggets of gold, little Leprechaun reference, because I did, in getting ready for the stream, obviously in a couple of weeks, I'm trying to like start to rewatch some of those 90s movies, which from 93 specifically, which I haven't watched for decades. Like a film like Leprechaun, which is obviously a film from 93. I've not seen that film since the late 90s. So I'm just trying to get back to like, reminisce and like, remember what it was about these films that we love so much. And maybe some of these films from the early 90s, maybe we don't love so much. Maybe we love more than we realized. But yeah, it was definitely an experience watching Leprechaun after all these years, seeing a young Jennifer Aniston for like the first time in like 25 years was something. But yeah, so yeah, keep an eye out for that one in the next couple of weeks. Okay, so we've got James Orders, Jamie, Big T's on board as well. So Big T. So let's just jump on with like the conversation before I just completely lose my train of thought. So, okay, let's just go straight to Pearl. Trailer dropped last week, I think. A lot of hype for this film from the community. Loved X. Don't get me wrong, loved X. I thought X was like really entertaining. Generic, slightly generic in my opinion. I love the film. I did think it was a little bit generic in the way it was, the word escapes from which I'm trying to find. But the way it played out was a little bit generic for my liking. I think it could have been a little bit more out there, a little bit more to it. For an A24 film, it did feel quite sort of by the books, slightly A to Z, if that makes sense, for an A24 film. But as a movie that is kind of like something to keep the appetite of Texas Chainsaw Massacre fans, keep their appetite sated, I would say. Keep them happy, keep them hungry. Not hungry, well fed, I should say. I think it did a good job. I mean, I think if you are like that sort of Chainsaw Massacre guy, it did play up to that sort of like, the people who like that sort of film. And it is surprising that it's an A24 film, because it just does not feel like an A24 film. What I've seen of A24 I've seen a lot of A24 films, and even they're more sort of like what you would call mainstream, sort of like, it's hard to describe. I mean, Spring Breakers with James Franco, which was from like 10 years ago, that was kind of like felt quite mainstream, but even at times when it went kind of what I would describe, it tried to go like artsy, but didn't really work. But it was still going for that like sort of artsy aesthetic. But it wasn't that sort of film at all. X doesn't really go for that in the slightest, and I think it benefits from that. I'm glad X didn't go with that sort of slightly arty A24 aesthetic, where they try and maybe some. Don't get me wrong, I love A24, but sometimes it does come across like they're trying to be a little bit too clever for their own good, and a little bit too sort of like self-knowing. So I'm glad that X didn't really do that. It kind of did stay quite level-headed and quite sort of Bearded Sloth. What's up, man? Bearded Sloth. Oh yeah, Bearded Sloth. Bearded Sloth. Yeah, if you're not subscribed to Bearded Sloth, I don't know if he's got a YouTube channel. He was in Piz's live stream the other night, and I missed it. But I have highlighted it. Why StreamYard is just not highlighting comments is, I have no idea why. I'm highlighting Jamie's comment now, and it's very, very slow in showing up, which is, I don't know if it's me, whether it's StreamYard. It's done this for the last couple of weeks, but it's to the point now where I don't even really want to bother highlighting comments. I feel like I should just talk and speak the comments out loud and just leave even highlighting it. Even now, James' comments is kind of like, it looks like it's 3D, almost like into the background. Does that make sense? So go back to Pearl anyway. So Pearl trailer dropped. Yeah, I mean, for me, this is like a trailer for a movie that I don't think we even needed. Now, I know everyone was loving X, and I loved X as well, but I think it was kind of like a really good self-contained horror movie that doesn't need a backstory. I don't really feel like I need a backstory to Pearl. It's just like, I think she was kind of like the character, the way she was developed and the way the husband was developed, we kind of know the story. Well, I kind of feel like I know the story, and I don't really feel like I want to delve into the backstory because I honestly don't think it's that interesting. Look, watching the trailer, I'm not. It's not really sold me at all. I'm just not that interested in Pearl as like a villain because she's not really a villain anyway. Even in X, she's not really a villain. She's a sympathetic character. She's only going to be the way the trailer's playing out. It's making her look very unsympathetic. It's making her look like a bit of a sociopathic or psychopathic character. Maybe psychopathic rather than sociopathic. And I don't really understand where they're going with this because I personally think if they were going to do a prequel, they've kind of made her look like a bit of a bitch. And going off X, she's far from that. She's very, very misunderstood, older person with issues. And this trailer just leaves me a little bit bewildered, to be fair. And the fact that A24 are going down a sequel route, again, is just a little bit bewildering to me. A little bit bewildering. I don't really know what they're trying to do with that. A24 to me have always been like a little bit above that. I'm not trying to be all like snobby towards sequels because I like Friday the 13th part fucking 7 and 8. I'm not snobby about sequels, but I just think when it comes to like an A24 film, a film like X, which I love, doing a prequel or a sequel, to me, it's just unnecessary. So, I mean, yeah, but it's happening and it's happening really, really fucking fast as well because the film only dropped at the beginning of the year and there's already a trailer for what looks like a ready-made film. So I can only assume that the film was being made when they were just releasing the original. I don't know. It seems very, very quick. Go back to chat because I noticed, I think Lauren's in the chat and Jay's in the chat as well. Jay's in the chat. What's up, Jay? Good to see you on board, man. Lauren says if it eventually shows up, because again, I don't know how it's shown up for you. Is it taking as long for you as it's taking for me? I mean, I've literally clicked on Lauren's comment like 10 seconds ago, and it's still not showing up. But anyway, Lauren says, good evening. Yeah, Pearl looks redundant and uninspired. So I feel slightly better about that. Knowing that Lauren is feeling slightly like a little bit, underwhelmed by Pearl as a trailer. And hope a lot of people are raving about it. For me, it's just, I'm just not that fussed about it. Ben's in the chat as well. Ben, what's up, man? Yeah, she's the killer. Big T says, I honestly think if we weren't stuck in the middle of the pandemic, we would be getting this film, but I'm so happy we are. I mean, if it wasn't pre-planned, they made the movie while in quarantine. I mean, I don't really know how lockdowns played into all these films because lockdown kind of ended not even that long ago, really, and I'm not even entirely sure how the movie making process has affected lockdown. Films we're getting now, were they impacted by lockdown? I don't, because some of the bigger budget movies probably were. I mean, I watched Dashcam today, finally. Wow, Dashcam, that is something to talk about. I don't know if to talk about it tonight because I watched it late today, literally just before going live. So I haven't really planned to talk about Dashcam. But holy shit, that film probably needs for me to just rewatch it and just take in what I saw, because that movie's kind of, yeah, it's kind of out there in a way. But I mean, I've got things I want to say about that film, but I kind of haven't really prepared anything to write about it. But I do kind of want to talk about that film. So maybe I'll save that till next week. Um, Going on to the Halloween Ends trailer, I mean, this is what a 90-second trailer that really covers very little. I mean, we know Jamie is on the offensive. We know there's a 4-year time jump, but it only brings it. See, the whole 4-year time jump was kind of like confusing me, but it kind of makes sense now, because obviously Halloween 2018 was 4 years ago, and obviously Halloween Kills just carried on the same thing. So that's why there's the 4-year time jump. I should have really figured that out for myself, but it all makes perfect sense now. So now we're back in line with modern day. So Michael Myers is now 64. 60, yeah, 64. So we've got a 64-year-old Michael Myers and a 62-year-old Laurie, I think. Am I right in saying 62-year-old Laurie? So a couple of old age pensioners going at it in a house with a potential false Michael Myers, because that's what I'm seeing online. I don't really know if that's true. What would be the point of that? People are pointing out that missing fingers and shit, and how this Michael Myers has not got missing fingers. I don't really go into like the details of trailers. I just kind of watch it briefly to get a taste, and then try and stay away from any more than that. Sometimes with Halloween, maybe I won't even watch the final trailer, because I just don't think it's going to do any good for me, my enjoyment of the film. But I couldn't help avoid seeing all this talk about, fake Michael Myers turning up, and I'm thinking, really, this is the final film in a 3-part trilogy, which is going to be like an hour and 45 minutes long, and they're going to find the time to throw in a fake Michael Myers. I mean, come on. If I'm wrong, okay, shoot me. I can't see it. I just cannot see that. That to me is just insane. I mean, it wouldn't even put it past me to believe that Danny McBride didn't even realize that he's put in the trailer, a Michael Myers with like a full 5 fingers. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I watched the trailer. I couldn't even spot the scene where he's missing fingers. I mean, it all happened so fast, and I'm not like the sort of person who is freeze framing every single little image. But yeah, I mean, maybe people are crediting Danny McBride with like too much self-awareness. I don't know. Um, let's go back to the chat, because I mean, literally, there isn't really that much to say about Halloween Kills. I mean, literally, we've got a 90-second trailer. We'll get a full trailer. I mean, does anybody know when the full trailer is going to drop? The film comes out middle of October, so is the full trailer due to drop during a big cinema release, or are they just going to drop it on YouTube? Because I've literally no idea how they're gonna go about, putting the trailer out. Let's go back to the chat. Jamie says, I love Pearl as a villain. Yes, she's supposed to be a psychopath, lol. Ben says, I mean, it wasn't people they made the movie well in quarantine. Big T, after this, where do we go from here? I think he's referring to Halloween there, I'm assuming. Chris says, I'm looking forward to also on to direct sequel following Maxine afterwards. Sean says, yo, Sean, what's up, man? Sean Till says, I thought the Pearl trailer was great. Mia Goth's going to be excellent in it. I'm still waiting for an explanation as to how they've managed to put this film out so quickly after X. Was this already in the works? How did they know that X was going to be a success? I mean, if X had just bombed, then how on earth would they have, how would they have gone about putting this movie together. I mean, I don't care how. I mean, A24 is not a massive company, so if X had bombed, there would never have been a sequel. So this seems to be very, very quick. I mean, it's not that low budget, surely. I mean, it still requires a lot of planning and casting and shit. Lauren says mod fight. Let's all time out. Jessica, what's up, Jessica? No one's exhausted. I'd like to see Pearl go through the adult film and she following through a journey, killing against object. That could be a possibility. I'm sure Dan would have a few ideas about who could play Pearl as a real life porn star. So it's everyone's in, so I'm going blind. Okay. Well, we're gonna end this discussion now about Pearl anyway. Well, actually, I mean, basically we've moved into. Oh, yeah, Mikey's in the chat as well. What's up, Mikey? Ben says they shot it at the same time as X. This is so frustrating. This StreamYard. They had 2 weeks of quarantine, decided to make it then. That's just. Yeah, I mean, quarantine has had its benefits, I suppose. Quarantine has mean people are knocking out movies in 2 weeks, so not literally 2 weeks, but maybe quarantine did have its benefits. Okay, let's go into talk about men. Let's bring Griffin in. Lorne, if you want to join the chat as well, man, I will put a link out again. Because if Lorne does like this film, and if he wants to jump on and talk about it, I'll put another link out. So let's bring in Griffin.
Oh, hey.
What's up, man?
That's a little closer than I thought it was going to be.
He's going to go to his avatar any second now.
No, it's okay. All right. Hey, what's up?
What's up, man? I've just suddenly gone really, really slow. Maybe I don't think my internet can handle 2 people on the stream.
Hell no, I can't handle this.
What's up, man?
All right, so I will disagree with you on the X being kind of conventional for A24. I do think stuff like Green Room, The Monster, and Free Fire, I think those were pretty conventional, horror type thriller films that were released by A24.
Yeah, I mean, Green Room for me is like a film that I didn't really enjoy Green Room as much as I thought I would. I was expecting it to be like this sort of like, I don't know. I think maybe I came into Green Room too late because I came into it like maybe about 2 years ago when all the hype had already been built up around it, and I was expecting this sort of like amazing movie, and I was kind of left a little bit disappointed because for me it just did. I mean, Patrick Stewart. What is Patrick Stewart doing in that movie? Patrick Stewart has no business being in that film. He's just completely out of place.
It's just being the baddie.
He can't even decide on what he's trying. I think he's trying to do an American accent, but he's failing miserably trying to do them. I mean, he can't even do. He just keeps on trying to do an American accent, and it just goes back to being Patrick Stewart, which kind of takes me out the film a little bit. I mean, I can take Patrick Stewart in like a movie where he's playing a villain in like New York or LA, but you're putting him in the middle. You're putting him in like, I don't know where the film's set, but you're putting him in the middle of nowhere.
I think it
just doesn't.
It's been a minute since I've seen it. I think it's set in Oregon or Washington.
It's you're putting him in like the sticks basically, and it doesn't really feel like he should be there. He just feels completely out of place.
Yeah.
But I mean, everyone raved about Green Room, so I kind of felt like I should really like the film. And when I actually got round to watching it, I'm like, am I missing something? Is everybody just like sucking A24's dick or something? So everyone,
No, I'm
no,
not, because I didn't like Under the Silver Lake, so I don't always suck them off. I hated Under the Silver Lake, but yeah, and I haven't seen uh, Spring Breakers because it's just not a movie I would
oh,
ever. It's not a movie I would ever want to
that,
watch. But we're going to talk about something that is good. We're going to talk about Alex Garland's newest film, Men.
yeah.
Just pull. So yeah, I went into this film. I was thinking I was going to like it because I enjoyed both of Alex Garland's previous two directorial films, and I didn't know if I would like this one or not. I was kind of like there was a lot of naysayers on it, but uh, watched it and I was hypnotized. I was absolutely hypnotized by
Yeah.
it. I was entranced. I loved it. I thought it was phenomenal. It's my kind of film.
I mean, just from the opening sequence of like just when the song kicks, I mean that gorgeous song, which is an Elton John. It's an Elton John cover. They play the Elton John original at the end of the film, but they play it's I think her name's Leslie Duncan. They play her version at the beginning of the film when she makes her way to the cottage, and just from that opening sequence, I was like, I'm gonna really like this film. When you
Hmm.
just the musical choices from the start is just like, with Harper's driving towards this, idyllic sort of. It's very much
Countryside.
well, it's very much the the imagery. It's like she's gone from. I mean, if you look at the opening scene where it's like literally she's living right in the middle of London. I mean, literally
Hmm.
Tower Bridge
Yeah.
is in the background. So she's gone from this ultra inner city sort of like setting to it's the equivalent of like somebody moving from New York City to this. I don't want to be derogatory, but it kind of it's kind of like that. It's like that big city girl moving to like this backwater, and she's a little bit sort of like dismissive of them.
Hmm.
If that makes sense, because it's very much like Hot Fuzz with it's the idea. It's like this London cop who's like he's transported to like the deepest, darkest countryside to deal in a small town, and he's very dismissive of like the whole setup and the surroundings, and very suspicious of the locals, and they're very suspicious of him. You
Hmm.
know, and it's very much a thing. I mean, I think it's probably similar in the states. They've used this trope, multiple times. I mean, I remember watching a TV show called Northern Exposure in the early 90s about like a New York City doctor who moves to Alaska, and he goes from the big city to like this small town, and it's
Hmm.
very much like it's him against them, and it's that trope of like, oh well, they think he's like snobby and elitist, they're all down to earth, and he thinks they're like sort of like backwards a little bit. But then as time goes on, they get to like sort of you know come together and get to know each other and realize that they're just very similar. But it's yeah, I mean, Men does play on those sorts of stereotypes a little bit, not in a bad way. I just think it's just something that it something I picked up on,
Hmm.
like going from the very beginning. But I mean, yeah, I loved the opening sequence. I mean, and the fact that not much happens for the first 45 minutes, but I'm like,
I was
yeah, when you are,
I was completely in it. It completely brought me in, and I was engrossed. I was completely with the story. It completely pulled me in. I was absolutely fascinated.
yeah, I mean, we've all been there. I mean, I've been like watching a few films from Dan's in the chat, by the way. What's up, Dan? Um, you just got a live stream coming up with Chris in a couple of weeks. Covering films from 1993,
Hmm.
and I've been trying to rewatch a few of those films from the early 90s, which I've not watched in decades. And I watched Leprechaun today with Warwick
Oh,
Davis and Jennifer
oh
Aniston.
God.
And I was like, I mean, it's enjoyable. Don't get me wrong, it's enjoyable to a point, but when you're watching a
Ha-
film, you kind of just like, this has been on for 45 minutes, and it feels like
An hour.
90 minutes. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
but in all that time, there's been constant action going on, but it
All right.
still feels like a long film. Yeah, and when I was watching Men, she spent 20 minutes almost just going for a walk,
That
and that
was
time flew by.
that's
That time
that's what I was.
flew by.
That's my favorite part of the movie.
It's
I l-
amazing. It's amazing. It's
I couldn't
amazing.
believe
The
like
what?
it's just a singular person
Yeah,
wandering around on a trail, and I'm like the musical choice, like you said, like Alex Garland's choice of music was impeccable. I loved it, and then the whole tunnel scene
yeah, 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 yeah.
where she's
Love it.
singing and it's her voice is reverberating off of the walls.
Yeah,
Okay, so can we go a little spoilery? Are we going to go full spoilers?
we'll
Let's
go. We'll go full spoilers. Well,
okay.
we both.
So when she's looking, because she's doing the song, she's singing in the tunnel, which is absolutely beautiful, gorgeous location, absolutely gorgeous location. Like, uh, so and then she sees somebody. We never get to see them. Of course, if anyone's seen the trailer for this film, then by Alex Garland, you'll see every male character except for her husband. We're just gonna James. We'll just call him James. That's the character's
It
name.
would be it would be difficult to make him the same character as everybody else. To be fair.
No, no, but this is what I was getting at. He's
Yeah.
when you see down the tunnel, I'm almost positive that was him in
You think
shadow.
so?
He was. I think that was
Right?
him walking down the when he gets up. I'm 1000% sure it was him.
See,
I had this gut feeling that it was James coming. It was James walking down towards her. You never see he's
when you
completely in
go,
shadows.
yeah, when you go on IMDb, you get the cast list up. It doesn't even the female cop. She wasn't Harper, was she? Surely not. That was just a different actress. It must have been.
The
When she's that.
this actress was Sarah Tomei.
Oh, but the actress who played when she's talking to the female police officer,
Hmm.
that wasn't. That was literally an actual police officer. It wasn't her, was it? Because
Yeah,
when you
it was a
go,
different character, completely different
okay,
character. But
yeah, okay,
like not
because
it was a different like it was a different actress.
yeah, it's
It,
just that
but
people were
but speaking of
sorry,
that,
go.
um, let's see, the actress name is Jessie Buckley.
Yeah,
This was just kind of a thought in my head. I'm sure I'm way off basis, but her like physical features, her facial profile, very similar to Rory Kinnear's in the film. I thought that was I don't know if that was just a coincidence. I feel like that was planned, having these kind of men that kind of resemble her, but they're all of her like they're all kind of her worst kind of manifestations of what she thinks of the opposite
yeah,
sex. The rapey priest, the petulant child, the country bumpkins, the arrogant police officer, um, naked, weirdo in the woods. I really felt like that's what it was going for, was like just trying to show like the worst for the most part of like what she believes. I kind of That's what I was kind of thinking it was leaning towards. But I know what Lauren is saying. What it is like when he's talking in the chat. It's not about like that. I think that's like the surface level, like what we're supposed to believe. Uh, I mean, we're going full spoilers. Do we want to go further, or
Yeah, you can do.
uh, everybody in the chat? We're going full spoilers. So like when I just knew it was going to happen when they each keep reproducing each other, the manifestations. I just knew at the final form would be James, her husband, would be the final version. I just had that. I was just like, yeah, he's going to be the last one to manifest and appear to her.
I mean, in terms of like, there's a lot of like sort of, in terms of like the last 20 minutes, a lot of like stuff you can sort of take into like, what is the meaning behind it? There's a lot of like sort of like I suppose you can make your own interpretation of what you feel the film's about, but there's a lot of sort of stuff in there which is kind of a very real kind of discomfort, horror in there, which is it's not it's so far removed from like what you class as traditional scares. I mean, for me, just I've mentioned this in a previous stream, the whole idea of like the setting for the film, like this remote sort of village, which okay, remoteness in England is nothing
Hmm.
like the remoteness in the US or like
But
other
it still
countries.
carries the same cachet of
Yeah,
being far away from people you know in a area or a location that you're
yeah,
familiar with.
exactly. And plus the fact that she has actually moved from like central London to this remote village in what she would consider the middle of nowhere. But it's just this idea as well. It's it's little things that can like for the viewer can make is it's just discomforting and uncomfortable and like is genuinely sort of like this little slightly disturbing. Just the scene where she's escaped from the tunnel and she's made her way back up onto like this open field,
Yeah,
and then she just sort of
I love how that was played.
oh,
Her
so
going
good.
to she runs to there's the other tunnel and it's got the door on
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And but she doesn't think to go towards the door. She goes, climbs up the hill to get out, and she goes to that what was that, like an abandoned it's like a farm
Yeah.
or something like that. I couldn't really tell what the area was she walked past to go into the field.
Somebody wants to jump on and discuss men.
Uh-oh.
I'm
Oh,
not
here
gonna.
he is.
I'm not gonna stay. I'm just gonna destroy Men for everyone who hasn't seen it, and I'll leave.
I
By the
know
way,
what
one
I
of the
was
best
gonna
films of
say.
the year. It's absolutely one of the best films of the year, and everyone should watch it without watching this video to hear me just destroy it for you. So, Men is the story of a woman who, during a fight with her husband, pushes him out a window. The window breaks and he falls to his death. From there, she imagines going to the countryside where every man is the same man, but is really a surrogate of her husband.
Hmm.
The film has all the imagery. A bird crashes through the window at a key point, which is a visual and audio reminder of what actually happened. At the end of the movie, her friend, who she's been talking to on a cell phone the whole film, but the screen keeps glitching to both images of
Reception keeps cutting
herself
out.
and a demonic version of herself. You can't hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, yeah.
A demonic version of herself. When her friend shows up, it's her coming to the realization of what actually happened. There's only two characters in the whole movie.
Hmm.
And that's why all the male characters are played by the same character to introduce the idea of the unification principle in play. All the Green Man stuff is a red herring.
Yeah, it's a junk symbolism.
Yeah, it's junk symbolism to draw you into the mood, the evocative mood, to think it's a kind of Wicker Man thing. But this is all a personal journey of a woman who killed her emotionally abusive husband, perhaps physically abusive. We don't really know. Yeah, that's the movie.
Yeah,
But it's an incredible journey, and you should check it out.
yeah, it's your favorite type of horror, guilt.
Yeah, I think modern horror can't be about the simple things anymore. I think it has to all be internalized to work. It's also the kind of film that, because it's asking something of the audience, certain audience members are just they're gonna want Pearl, they're gonna want X, they're not gonna want this. And I love that A24 can do both. I think this is the much more challenging film, and I think on rewatch, if you rewatch 4, listen to the incidental dialogue, and you'll find out that she was abused as a child, for instance. So that's why she struck out at her husband. It's all there. It's all buried in this kind of subterfuge, but it's all the elements that you need to understand the film are completely in the movie. It's a really, really strong film. And not that the concept hasn't been done before, or hell, the last episode of MASH kind of did the concept. But to see it done with this kind of style and grace is amazing. And I know when Piz saw it, he said he could have done without some of the rebirths at the end.
That was what tied everything together. That was the kind of visual tie for.
I think for a lot of people, they're like, "Oh, I got it," before they made it visual. But that's the whole thing. Is like, you didn't get it though. You're still working on it. If you, to that ultimate, that last scene where her friend shows up is the most important moment in the film, and because that's really her, and that's why she keeps telling her friend not to come, because she's not ready to deal with what happened. She keeps saying men rather than her husband because she can't deal with that, but they're all the same men, and all of her abuse, both from her past as a child and from the emotional abuse from her husband, all plays out in exactly everything that happens throughout the film. The sense of invasion, the sense of lack of privacy, inability to escape. It's kind of Carnival of Souls, right? So did I just destroy one of the greatest movies of the year for everyone?
Well, I guess if people haven't seen it, but no, I just love the visual montages of like showing like her in the in her apartment, and then there's the was a basin. Yeah, and it was kind of lighting up the room, and then like there's like the shots of her running to grab the door into that other tunnel. That was it was so hypnotic. I was absolutely entranced, like I said earlier. I know I'm repeating myself, but it was just such a visual feast.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of film where
just before Lauren, if Lauren's going to take off anytime soon, just want to get your opinion on just what I think is just such a good scene is, the phone call she's making, which is like live streaming a phone call, and he's just in the background in the window, just stark naked. And to me, that just, because you've seen the character like in the previous shot where she's made the panoramic sweep of the countryside, and you can see this like almost like a gold figure. He's almost like he's in gold. He's like a golden figure in the background, and then he just appears in the background. It's just such a strange. There's something so, even though he's just there in broad daylight, it's kind of such a strange, unusual setting for like that to happen, that it just kind of sent a chill down the spine a little bit, because you just don't know where it's going to go. You just, especially with it being an A24, where's this going to go with it? What is going to happen with this scene?
I've said a million times that my favorite of emotion that gets evoked by horror is the uncanny. That moment when something that feels commonplace goes just slightly left, and you can't put a finger on why you're as disturbed as you're disturbed. And scenes like that, yes, a naked man appearing in your garden it's definitely not a subtle event, but the fact that there's no immediate danger to her at any point, but you feel a danger, right? Even the trip to the bar, you feel like that's an edgy as hell scene, but is she actually in any physical danger? No. And that's where the uncanny is so powerful, when we're invested enough that we're looking for what's wrong. And that's driving us. That's what we find compelling. And there's not a lot of examples of horror doing that particularly great, to be honest, but it's what I always love. The original Cat People is probably the best film about the uncanny ever. Although, I mean, there's a lot of supernatural thrillers of the 50s and 60s that do it as well. But for me, like taking the ordinary and making it sinister because you just are tweaked just a little bit, that's where the real magic of horror happens. Because Run from a Chainsaw, I get, but it's Run from a Chainsaw. I've never understood how like these fit 22-year-olds can't outrun a 280-pound hillbilly.
Yeah.
But if it's something like that, you can't define what's wrong. Well, you can't escape that either.
Yeah, it's the total dissolution of normalcy. Like this film portrays carnival souls, and I would go with like Don't Look Now would be another one I would.
So Mike, have you seen Don't Look Now?
Yeah.
So
Donald Sutherland.
Don't Look Now is a movie that every horror fan should be talking about all the time, and yet it doesn't really get discussed. Nicholas Roeg created like something that builds to such a terrifying crescendo and then sells itself, which is not really something that happens often, if at all. And I think that movie, I don't know, we should be talking about that a hell of a lot more than we're talking about, like, I don't know, fucking Spookies or something,
Yeah, that and I just rewatched it. David Cronenberg's The Brood is another one where it's a regular life has just been completely destroyed by someone that you loved and trusted. Another film, it's just kind of interesting watching kind of those back to back.
I think that I just did a longer video about David Lynch. I think Lynch does Uncanny, and I think that's at best the best Lynch does Uncanny really well. And the shot in Twin Peaks where you actually see Killer Bob in Laura's room. I'm not spoiling anything because it's in like episode 4 or something.
Yeah.
It's just a man crouching behind a bed, and
it
manages to destroy you because the man shouldn't be there. In Philippe Mora's adaptation of Communion, a film that goes wildly off the rails but starts real strong, the sequence where the gray just peeks its head at an angle out from behind a cabinet to look at Christopher Walken, man, that will destroy you. Because again, you take something so normal and you place an element that does not belong in there. That's the magic of horror, because it makes us question. It makes us evaluate, and we start like viewing the film differently. Now, in that case of that movie, by then we're sailing over alien cities, and no one gives a crap, and there's lots of fluorescent lights that blink. But see Men, and anyone who says that Men is a woke movie, it's about a woman who does something horrible and can't come to grips with it. Now, is she completely wrong to do the horrible thing? Well, that's part of the cognitive dissonance of the movie. Like, when is it acceptable? And the movie keeps ratcheting it up. When is it appropriate to call the cops on someone? When is it appropriate to accuse someone of something? When is it appropriate to feel like, someone is doing something inappropriate? It's very much a meditation on Me Too, a serious one, than a woke film, I think.
Yeah, it's very much like I brought up earlier, the Brood, with the daughter. She's completely, disassociating. She's completely blocking out all this heinous visuals, overstimulation. She's completely trying to block it out and just go completely numb. And everybody else around her is just, her grandparents are falling apart. Her parents are literally like, her father's the only one who's still mentally able to proceed forward, whereas everybody else is just wallowing in either grief or hatred, distrust.
So Dan is saying that The Wasteland may still be his favorite film of the year. Until this week, it was mine. but something has surpassed it. So
Never
Pretty
even heard of the
pretty
Wasteland.
solid year.
I'm pretty shocked about some of the stuff that's falling off my top 10 list because I really thought, okay, this is making it through. And no, there's a lot of stuff that's really, we are in a good time to get access to world cinema and to other voices and to independent films. It is an amazing time, and I hope everyone's using it to their fullest, because if you're just waiting for Halloween frickin' ends and don't know what to tell you, you're not doing it right. You know, go see Halloween Ends, fine. You can buy my ticket. But seriously, there's so much great stuff. I won't, no suspense about it. The best film of the year so far for me is, the best horror film of the year so far is Moloch, which, outstanding film. Outstanding. It's everything I look for in cinema. So, I mean, I think there's been like 6 films this year that I would say are like that any other year could be my top film of the year. So besides 2020, this is pretty much as good as it gets.
What's your thoughts on Dashcam, though?
I couldn't get through 10 minutes of it.
That was the worst. I mean, I would say it was the worst 10 minutes. I think it gets better. I think she's insufferable. The main character is like insufferable, but it does get better. But I mean, I loved Host. I think Host is fantastic.
So found footage and me are not
director.
I just think found footage as a concept is so self-limiting, and I mean, it's different if no one has done it. So your Cannibal Holocausts and your Blair Witches and your Peeping Tom and your even the opening of the Jekyll and Hyde, the March version, which has a very long first-person opening sequence of a one-shot. I think that's cool when you're not just borrowing off what everyone else is doing. But if you're going to make it a first-person endeavor, I better like the person on that's your first person perspective. And she was just god awful. It was written from a very specific point of view and delivered like a stand-up comedian. Like, no, I could not go. Sorry. And I look at the trailer for that Bodies movie, and you could not crowbar me in the head hard enough to watch that movie in a comatose state. I would will myself to die than watch that friggin'
It does look. It does look bad. That film.
But that's a A24 movie, so I do not have a bias.
Yeah, I don't either. Like I said, Under Silver Lake, I wanted to bash my skull in.
Yeah.
But before you leave, Lauren, you saw Men in the cinema, right?
I did.
Was there anyone else present?
There was. It's funny. The one thing that the like subscription app plans for AMC and Regal, I'm a Regal member, but have done is it's like people will take a chance on just about anything if like old people. I see seniors, retired people in every freaking movie now. And I love that because there's nothing more depressing than watching like no one show up to a film that, know.
Was there walkouts?
No. That's the thing. I think no one knew what the movie was, and that includes me. I mean, the trailer doesn't tell you.
Mm-hmm.
You just kind of have to trust the A24 brand, which in this case didn't work, right? The movie did not do very well. Didn't get the screens to do very well, but. But it did. I think once people sat down and watched it, it's a really compelling film. So I think when people actually sit down, they have a much higher view of it than they expected to going in. I hope everyone checks it out because it's really, really, it's good. It's really good, and Dashcam is not something you could force me to watch. If the Region Free guys tried to sucker me in like they do with that freaking License to Drive movie or those later Halloween films they made me endure, I would draw a line in the sand and say no Dashcam.
Got to get him to do some Cronenberg commentaries.
But how do you do that and not get banned?
You can do scanners. Just
You
how
can do
don't
You can
yeah,
do-
just
that
can't do
might be
Dead
wrong. You could do Scanners, or you could do these crime movies from the 2000s. That's
Yeah,
about
yeah, definitely could not do Dead Ringers.
the women out there. They're changing, I tell you. Yeah, a film about gynecology and horror is probably not going to go over well with the algorithm, huh?
Got to keep it towards the slasher, which is funny.
Yeah, you can
Hey,
kill,
okay,
you can kill people, but you can't discuss biology.
Yeah, exactly. That's how it works in this world.
Anyway, guys, I'm going to step off. Thanks for having me on. I am feeling better. I just worked a 12-hour day, and I'm still recovering. So I am feeling better than I was, but I still got a ways out of this thing, and work is getting pretty intense. So it's good to see both of you. Mike, it's always great.
Okay, man.
Griff, sorry we haven't
That's all
gotten
right,
together,
man.
brother, but it's been just a crazy time.
It's no problem, man.
All right,
Good to
be
see you,
good.
man.
Everyone out there, thank
See
you
you
for
later
letting me
on.
ruin one of the best
Peace
movies
out,
of the year.
everyone. All right.
later, man.
So now the dash cam.
I actually, the first 10, I understand with Lawrence, problems with the opening. I mean, the first 10 minutes, I watched it with my wife, and she was like, "This film is just utter shit," because she's so annoying. Main character is just so utterly annoying. She's just unbearable, and she doesn't even get any better during. Have you seen the film, Griff?
No, I'm just letting you talk.
No. Okay. No, I'm sure I'm sure there's a few people in the chat who've seen the film. I'm sure Dan's seen it. I think Dan has seen it. But she's just so unbearably obnoxious throughout the entire film. But I mean, it's not just her; there are other characters, throughout it's not like there's not a huge ensemble of characters, but there is a fairly likable side character who's fairly sympathetic. But it's not like Zoom. I thought Zoom was fantastic. I don't know if you've seen Zoom. Not
No,
Zoom,
I haven't
Host,
seen it.
sorry. Zoom is I'm calling it Zoom. Zoom is the name of the fucking app they use. They're basically all having a Zoom. Yeah, they're all having it's during lockdown, they're all having a Zoom meeting. It's a very much like Unfriended, but
I did see
with this
Unfriended.
basis of it. I loved Unfriended. I think Unfriended's fucking great movie. Not 2. I don't like 2. I think Unfriended. Controversial statements. I think Unfriended, the first one of the best horror movies of the 2010s, in my opinion. I just love that film so much.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't sound too impressed.
No, I haven't seen it.
You don't sound too. Oh, I thought you seen
what?
Unfriended.
Unfriended.
Unfriended?
Unfriended. Yeah, it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's the. I've loved the first one. I think it's a fucking great film. I just go on. Sorry.
No, you can go ahead.
No, go on, Griff. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, it's
Oh no, I was literally. Oh, the thing about Unfriended.
Yeah, Unfriended. Yeah, it's it's kind of it's just kind of another version of Carrie, with a group of people who were who turns out were watching the bullies, it's per perspective. So I thought the idea was good, but the execution, I think it could have been a little bit more visceral.
I just like the idea of
get that blood.
I've seen so many of these types. I think there was one called Friend Request, which came out around the same time, which was just so bad. It just didn't like capture the whole. The thing that what I like about Unfriended is it captures the whole sort of aspect of like social media at the time, and what the good thing about what they used to their advantage in that film is they use Facebook, YouTube, Skype, Google. They use all the legitimate websites, so it doesn't feel like a cheap knockoff. I think I think it was Friend Request, which was a similar film, but wasn't found footage,
Oh,
which came out at the
ugh,
time. But you
that was
used this.
horrible.
I think it was it was a similar premise. Yeah, but it was a similar sort of premise about like online bullying and shit. But the fact that they were just using like fake websites. So when she goes on Google, it's called something like Spoogle or some.
I
It
think it's
doesn't make any
Noogle.
sense. You know, yeah. So
Maybe, I don't
with
know. It's been
Unfriended,
I saw it once and I'm trying to purge it. Uh, whatever
yeah,
the
with
the not
Unfriended,
unfriended one.
with Unfriended,
W-
yeah, with Unfriended, they used everything legit. It was like and the great thing about that movie about Unfriended, which even now I still get a little bit of a chill down my spine, is that Skype phone call.
Mhm.
The noise that
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
get I
Are we
can't,
talking about the Ring?
yeah, yeah, the Ring. They use that like a lot in that film, but it's like the precursor to like something bad. Because
Hmm.
the call's coming in from like the paranormal fucking the dead girl basically.
Hmm.
So it kind and they kind of just something like a Skype call is kind of given like this added sort of creep factor. And even now when I hear that Skype call now, it kind of gives off. I just think of that film instantly, and it's a testament to that film that it gave that it had like that much of an I wouldn't say that much of an impact on me, but the fact that whenever I hear that Skype call now, even now, I still think of that film, and it does. I just associate that ringtone with something a bit bad,
Hmm.
because they did it so well. But I say it would not have worked with a fake Skype, a fake Google, a fake Facebook, and a fake Facebook. It wouldn't. I would have watched the film and thought this is stupid. How can I take this seriously?
Yeah,
How can I believe that this girl is getting bullied online when I
yeah.
don't recognize the websites that she's getting bullied through?
Hmm.
Because we all know that online bullying exists. We all know it's happened since social media, since the beginning of social media. But we've got to see the legitimate websites for us to take it seriously. And so Unfriended just nailed it for me. It just would not have worked
Yeah,
without those.
it was better than something like, Friend Request, and another one I detest. It was so stupid. Was Chain Letter. Oh, that movie was
Yeah.
so
Oh
annoying.
yeah.
Every time
Yeah.
someone got a chain letter, it's like, you received a chain letter. You got a chain letter. You received a chain letter. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, shut up. It was so annoying.
God, yeah.
And then, uh, it's kind of funny. It was also kind of like a little bit like Hellraiser, Hell World.
Never even seen that film.
Oh yeah, that one's got Henry Cavill.
Oh right. So it's
Yeah, yeah.
kind of like
Uh,
2000s.
I'm sure everybody in the
I
chat just
I
perked up. It's like, oh, I love that film. I bet you anything.
I checked out after part three with Hellraiser. I'm sorry, but
Yeah,
anything after three, I was done.
unfortunately I've seen them all, so I suffered such sweet suffering. Yeah, that like it was just kind of funny how yeah, it was better than I'll give it. It was better than those films I just mentioned. I don't even know if you consider Hell. I don't even know if Hell. Yeah, it probably was shot on film.
Is Hellraiser due for like some sort of remake soon? I would have assumed it's got to be up there in terms of like movies they want to just like reboot, rebrand, you name it. Hellraiser's got to be in the mix for like having something happen to it. Maybe a PG-13 version of Hellraiser where there's no chains, you know, nobody getting flesh ripped off. I don't know.
No one saying Jesus wept.
No, but
that was one film I would have liked if they would have kept the English accents because they dubbed most of the actors to be American. I think that really took away from the film. I think it would have been just like just set it in England, just set it in wherever it was supposed to take place. Because
well, the
I have no
original, the original,
I have
the
no idea
original
where it was.
Hellraiser, the original book was set in Liverpool,
Mhm.
like literally where I'm from, because like Clive Barker's from Liverpool. That's the original, very very basic version of the story. I think it might be a short story. He sets it in Liverpool,
Yeah,
and
it's
then obviously Hollywood took over and then just moved it, obviously. But yeah, I mean,
and
I've never read the originals.
post production, it was all shot over or not England but Liverpool.
Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, I'm not. I was never the biggest Hellraiser fan. I like the first. I like the first three movies but they've always been like a 7 out of 10 for me.
Hmm.
I've never been like the biggest fan. I've never been the biggest fan of the Hellraiser franchise. It's not something that I've like really invested in. I've never wanted to see them bring it back. And then there's some people who love the franchise that much that they wouldn't want it to come back.
It's gonna
And
happen.
yeah, probably will. But again, because I don't love the franchise that much, I wouldn't even care if they brought it back, because if you don't care about something, you don't care like if they just bastardize it, ruin it. Because what do I care? It's not like, it's like if Halloween comes back again in 10 years, I'll want it to be good. I'll want it to come back, but I want it to be good. I don't want it to be shit. If Hellraiser comes back and it's shit, I don't care. just don't give a shit. You know, it's like Friday the 13th. I want it to come back. I want it to be good, but I still want it to come back. Hellraiser, don't come back. Don't care. Come back. Don't care. Shit. Don't care. Be good. Don't care. It is what it is.
Hmm.
But,
Yeah, Hellraiser. I like you. Like I really enjoy the first two. The third one I can watch. The fourth one, it's got its problems, and then after that, it goes downhill quickly.
What are you excited for the new Child's Play TV show? Like the new season? Did you watch the
Nope,
first season?
nope. I've only seen the
No,
first
no,
three.
no.
I've only seen the first three Child's Play films.
Well, I've only seen the first four, and then the show.
Hmm.
So I kind of feel like I'm out the loop a little bit, because the show kind of brings in stuff from a couple of the films that I've not seen. So when they dropped these characters, I was kind of a little bit confused as to what was going on with the TV show. I actually think the TV show is actually half decent. Um, it's a little bit woke. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit woke. It's a little bit weird. I mean, there's a scene with like the male, the male protagonist getting on with like a young girl who's like, and I googled it. She's like 13 in real life, and they were like getting it on a bed, like about to have sex. I'm like, this feels a bit weird. Like I'm not like, what the fuck's going on? It's just like this is a bit odd. I don't really want to see this on a fucking Chucky TV show. But yeah, it's actually half decent. Obviously it's more in line with like if you're a fan of the first couple of films, then it's probably more in line with that. Although they do bring in some of the later characters, but it does feel more like he feels more like the old Chucky
Hmm.
to a point. So if you're a fan, I mean, by path, I mean, which is the film which like everybody like absolutely despises? Is
Seed.
it is it
I'm
is it
pretty sure it's
Seed?
Seed.
Okay. Yeah, I think I went as far as 4, which is that Curse?
Bride.
Bride, yeah, sorry, Bride. Yeah, so I went as far as Bride, and I checked out after that. I was like, I'm done. This is
Hmm.
just just getting a bit too silly now.
So
And I went,
I want to kind of highlight something that Chris said when I mentioned Hellraiser, Hellworld. He mentioned he'd rather watch. Was it? He said. Well, anyways, he says he enjoys a lot more than the directed TV DVDs. I'm pretty sure those were that one was also, but it's kind of interesting how you watch. There's certain newer like there's old films in the past you didn't like, you didn't necessarily hate, but you didn't like them, and then you grow to it. I'm curious, is there a lot of films you've seen where you appreciate them over time? You watch like a new film, you're like, Jesus, this makes that movie I saw in the past look great in comparison.
I mean, probably, difficult really, because a lot of the film, it depends how far back you're going to go, because obviously a lot of the films you watch as a kid, you kind of just like love them, you know, regardless of how bad they were. It's I've seen a lot of bad films as a kid growing up, up until my late teens, which I still love now. But looking back in hindsight, they probably weren't the best films if I was going to watch them now for the first time. So in terms of like what I watched when I was younger as an adult, which I think I didn't like then, which I like now, you're probably going back to sort of maybe the late 90s, early 2000s when I,
That's what I was
you know,
kind of.
had,
That's what I was kind of.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I suppose, I mean, a film like Urban Legend, which I liked to a point. I was like 21, I think, when that came out. I went to cinema to see it, and I don't think I really appreciated it as much as what I do now. And I don't think it's the greatest film in the world. I really don't, because it's got its problems. But I think when I originally saw that film, it was kind of off the back of Scream. So it was kind of just, it came out a year or two, and I was like, Scream, no, he did last summer. Those sort of movies, got on board with them. And I think by 98, I was a bit worn out with, because by 98, it was kind of, we'd had like a lot, not a lot, but we'd had a fair few of
Well,
these sort of like
this is a good
rebirth slash
question.
maybe.
This was what's the film that kind of brought you back into horror? Like really brought you back, like you were like back in the fold.
Um, in terms of what age are we talking about? The 90s?
No,
Because
like
I
you're
mean,
talking like the late '90s. You were getting kind of you weren't
oh,
really up. You weren't really
yeah.
into the horror films at that time. But was there a film in the early 2000s,
Well,
mid 2000s that made you just go, I'm back in I'm back in the mode. I'm my appetite's been whet. I want to see more now.
yeah, I mean, in terms of actually, you know what? I suppose I kind of got worn out a little bit after the 90s. Obviously, Scream dragged me back in, because the early 90s was just like a wasteland of just, there was not really much, and what was out wasn't great. Was, we all know that the early to mid 90s was not a good time for horror. Scream kind of just dragged me back in, but then we did get maybe too much of just one type of movie. I mean, I think I've mentioned Urban Legend. The Urban Legend sequels are just terrible, which came out in sort of like the early 2000s. I think probably the film that got me right back into it was probably Saw,
Oh yeah,
2004 maybe. Because I think by 2004, we'd kind of gone past the whole slasher phase of just like constantly rebooting, and, we'd had Scream, we'd had 3 Scream movies by this point, we'd had Urban Legend. I think we'd had 3 Urban Legend films by this point. Only one which was any good.
and I
I
believe
mean, Blair Witch
3.
Project.
I know what you did last summer films, or at least 2
Yeah,
sequels to
exactly.
that.
And only the first one was any good, in my opinion. So I think
The second one has its merits for killing Jack Black.
yeah, Jack Black with dreadlocks. Jack Black, cultural appropriation from Jack Black, I might say. Not politically correct from Jack Black. But yeah.
How dare you speak of Illa Black?
So yeah, by 2004, I think we were kind of like we were looking for something a bit new. I think even though Hostel was 2000, I mean, this is the thing I always forget. Was always under the impression that Saw came before Hostel, but apparently Hostel was 2003, and I always forget this. So was Hostel the birth of torture porn in terms of that definition?
I would
Because
say this is a film I can't stand, but I would say more so. I guess it's well. I'm trying to think like
because
because you
I was
because you
I
had
was
because you had like stuff from like the Ghost House or no was it Ghost no not Ghost House what was the Ghost Ship 13 Ghost.
yeah. Yeah, you had
What
Ghost Ship,
was the
13
what was the
Ghosts,
ghost what was
House on
the
House on Haunted Hill, House on Haunted
what was the
Hill.
company behind that one?
Oh, I don't know.
Stay Alive was not a fun movie, Anthony. It was terrible. It got Silent Hill lore completely wrong, so it sucks. Dark Castle, thank you, Chris Lorne. I'm gonna totally disagree. I hated that Stay Alive was oof oof. But like I was thinking like Fear.com, which is another movie I don't like, but
Oh,
that was kind of doing the torture, for the views.
but in terms of the actual term, you know, I
It's
honestly don't
it's
know.
probably hostile
I'm curious to know
or
where that
hostile.
term originated. Obviously it originated online on a website. Dan or Law may know this, but the actual term torture porn, like where did that term, when did it first get coined? It was after Hostel because Hostel was kind of like the first. I'm not saying I'm not saying it was the first torture porn film, but it was that film kind of triggered that saying. And then when Saw came out a year later, then that torture porn tag became like a real sort of like it just became like a buzzword, for like a certain type of movie. I'm just curious, like where do these words originate, these
I don't.
sayings? Because
I, that might have been like Richard Roper might have said that, possibly. I could be totally wrong about that, but I have a feeling it was Richard Roper or Roger Ebert. They might not have been the first two to say it, but yeah, because they were still on the air around when those films were coming out. But
anyway,
yeah,
to
the
answer your question, yes, Saw was probably the movie there. To answer your question,
like I have a different viewpoint of like the 2000 like the 2000s. There was a lot of shit as far as movies go, but
yeah,
video for horror video games it was golden era for horror video games. You had some of the best, you had the Fatal Frame
Dead
games, you had The Suffering, you had Resident Evil
Dead Space.
4.
Was Dead Space
Did
2000s?
it was 2008. It was towards the tail end, but like yeah, I will put in that kind of Amnesia, uh, just a ton of great titles for as far as the video games, but movies, it was hit and miss. Like there was some good stuff like The Descent and the Japanese. The J horror was still going pretty strong in the I would say mid 2000s, but then all of Lauren's favorite remakes started coming out,
Well,
and
it
then
was
and then of course Platinum Dune started releasing remakes. What was the Chainsaw Massacre remake? Was that 3 or 4? 2003 or 4?
free. I think it was free.
Okay, okay,
They
yeah.
made that may have been the beginning of the remake trend. That might have been that might have what kickstarted it. Because Dawn of the Dead was 2005,
I would say I guess it probably was, but it was
2004.
definitely there with The Ring. It was most certainly there with The Ring as far as a remake.
Oh yeah, of course. The Ring was 2002, I think. But in terms of remakes of American horror
Hmm.
films, so
Yeah,
so I think the Ring was 2002.
it was
Yeah,
2002, but it was kind
James,
of
James,
the kickoff of all.
yeah,
Well, no,
it was.
we're wrong again because it was because it was the fucking Haunting remake. Fuck that movie. It's terrible. Anyone says that movie's good,
Well,
no.
But
No,
who
that's
could you-
that's the one film. That's the one film I can't. No, like if you like the hell, if you anything other than the Haunting remake, it's got the oh my god, the fucking Owen Wilson, pretty creepy. It's so bad. It's so, and then it was alive. Oh, it's so
I
horrible.
think that the best thing the Haunting did, though, that
Sure.
remake, is it introduced people to the original film. Because there'd be a whole generation of people who had no
Yeah, because like
idea
the
that
the
this
the
film existed.
DVDs, you know, the DVDs were getting re-released around that time period. You
Yeah.
know, that was the golden era, or golden age for kind of media at that point. You know, because VHS was still kicking, Laserdisc had just ended, and DVD was, you know, was just soaring to new heights with like you know, like the PlayStation 2 having it, like, you know, DVDs, man. That was
Well,
that I think
I
that's
mean,
partially the reason why a lot of people are here in this chat is because of movies being available on DVD. Because, like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people like Lauren, you know, he was able to get a hold of Laserdisc and such, but most of us, you know, we were if you were watching John Carpenter films on VHS, you're just being viewed completely wrong because those films need to be seen in widescreen.
I remember
Those are some films I would love to see in the theater.
I just remember like
Except,
buying a PlayStation 2, and just that was my first introduction to a DVD player
mhm.
because
I think that's the vast
up until that
majority
point,
of people's
yeah,
introduction.
they were available in the UK in '97, but they were expensive, and I stuck with VHS right up until 2000, and
Mhm.
then and then bought a PlayStation 2. It was like these things play DVDs, great. Started buying DVDs, and then obviously moved on to Xbox. Never looked back, and that was always like. And then obviously I did eventually buy an actual DVD specific player, but yeah,
Mhm.
the PS. It was kind of like I bought a PS2 to play games, but then it was like, oh, this plays movies as well. That's fantastic.
Do
I'll
you,
just start.
were you watching films more so than actually playing games around that time period? Just
Well,
because all the access?
I I bought the PS2 to play games, but it kind of like films took over because obviously by this point DVDs were just becoming like so prevalent, and obviously they were a lot cheaper than buying a game as well. You go to like my local store, they would always have good offers on DVDs. You could always like pick up like 3 DVDs for like £25 or something, which is like probably in them days like $40 maybe. Whereas
Mhm.
like a video game was like £40,
Mhm.
which is probably like I don't know $70. So it's like, well, I'll just get 3 films instead. But yeah, I remember I always remember like the House on Haunted Hill. I think from '99 was one of the very first DVDs I ever bought,
Mhm.
and I still love that film. I love that film so much. I think it's a fantastic movie.
Did you import the Scream Factory Blu-ray?
I've
Do you import Blu-rays?
I've not bought physical media for maybe 10 years. I've,
Oh, okay.
I've literally just can't do it. I've
Streaming.
literally got well, literally, I think Piz is whenever we do the live streams of Piz and you start talking about physical
Physical
media
media.
and like it's those yeah it's just like I've always said like I've got 2 bedroom house, 1 bedroom for me partner, 1 bedroom for my son. If he moves out, it's game on.
It's
But
game
until he
on.
does,
Yeah, well,
it's
see,
like
you're
yeah.
lucky because you've got Arrow Video, man, and they've got such a great catalog. Oh, speaking of all those, they got they got all the giallos, man. They got them all.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I was so
if I
elated
mean,
when they started releasing in the US. I'm just like, yes.
I do need to watch Piz's stream and Christian's and Lorne's stream about the Giallo movies or about the Italian horror because
Oh yeah, that's a
it's
good one.
something yeah, I mean I've dipped my toes into the Italian horror movies over the last year, but I try not to like burn myself out on them because I
Hmm.
don't really think it's a good idea to just like binge watch too much of one genre because I just think you're just going to maybe lose it's going to lose its edge a little bit. So I kind of try to watch like one
Mhm.
every like month or so. So I mean, I just went in with Argent. I mean, I've seen Suspiria years ago.
Hmm.
Then I've started. I watched the Animals. Watched the Animals trilogy, which I love. Inferno, not for me. Didn't like Inferno. Love Tenebrae. And then I've just been branching out to other stuff, some of the Fulci stuff and some of the 60s stuff.
What?
Or Blood and Black Lace. Blood and Black Lace is a fantastic
Yeah,
movie.
Bava,
Love that film. Love that film so much.
Mario Bava. You're gonna dip your toes into like Black Sabbath, Black Sunday.
Yeah. I've seen, is Black Sabbath like is it like a trilogy of
I
short
believe I
stories?
believe they're both anthologies. I believe they're both. I know for sure Black Sunday, but I believe they're both.
I think I've seen I've seen one of them. There's one where it's like a gothic story set in
Oh
like
yeah,
the Middle Ages.
that's what they are. Is
Like,
gothic stories, man.
yeah, I've seen that one. Um, whether it was Black Sabbath or Black Sunday, I can't remember. I think it was Black Sunday, I think.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I just love that, that especially that early 70s sort of like aesthetic, that of like, and those, yeah, I mean, but I say it's not something I really want to just like just binge watch too much, because I just want to keep it special rather than just,
Or
it's like
just
if you
overdoing it.
yeah, I don't think that's the best way to go about things
Hmm.
personally. I'd rather just like mix things up a little bit. I mean, if anybody just like watched 80s slasher films for like, you know, constantly for like 10 days, they'd probably be like, I've had enough, I can't be doing, I can't, I no more, no more. But,
Unless you're Piz.
well, yeah. uh, I mean, have you seen Final Exam?
Final Exam? No.
Yeah. It's a film I watched, and Piz, I'll give Piz like, credit. He sticks by things. If he doesn't like a film, he'll watch it over and over again until he finally gets it. And Final Exam is like a movie that I watched 5 or 6 years ago, and I just thought, this is just, it's the early 80s, so I love that respect, and it's set on like a camp, like a college campus, which is like, so so far so good. Early 80s college campus, what's not to love? But it's so slow in the setup. It takes like a good hour for. I like character build up, but if these characters are just completely pointless with who are really bad actors, then what is the point in building these characters up? And it takes a good hour for the first kill, and it just seems to go on. And even the first kill just seems to go on and on and on, and it's like it just gets to the point where you're like, oh my god, I just want this film to end. And Piz, like he's even his review, he said like, he rewatched the film like 5, 6, 7 times, and he finally gets it. He finally likes the film, and like, I mean, I've not got that patience. Like, I have not got the patience to rewatch. Like, I couldn't watch that film again now and give it 90 minutes of my time. I'd just be like, oh, I can't do it. I just can't. Even if I get it on the second go, I just don't want to put myself through the torture of watching the film again. It's just, it's just like I just can't do it.
Hmm.
But some people can just keep plugging at a movie they think they should like, and fair play. In the end, it just clicked with him. I'm I can't do that. I can't do it.
Yeah. Uh, has there ever really been a film where like the ending kind of saved it for you? It kind of just completely, you know, it just made the rest of the film work. It like you were felt like it was a
Not
slog through the rest of the hour and a half.
No, not really. Not off the top of my head. No, I just think. I mean, there's been the opposite films where the first half an hour has been a slog, and then I mean, case in point. Have you seen Dune? The
No, I
new.
haven't seen the new Dune yet. I haven't seen it.
Oh, it's really good. And I mean, this is just my opinion. I think it's a fucking brilliant film. But the first 30 minutes is kind of like if if it's, I mean, I spoke to a few people who've watched the first 30 minutes and they've kind of like, oh, I'm not sure about this, and they've just, they've got distracted and they've ended up going on the phone, or they've got distracted and something else, and they've just walked away from it. I mean, just stick. It's a long. It's 2.5. It's 2.5 hours long. It's a long film, and there's no closure because it's setting up a sequel. But I just think it's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous film to look at. Brilliantly acted. It's intelligent sci-fi. It's difficult to go back to like a Marvel film when you watch a film like Dune. But this is like this is what sci-fi should be. It's intelligence, thought-provoking, well acted. There's consequences, and then you move back to like watch Thor: Love and Thunder, and I'm supposed to take that seriously. Well, obviously.
I can't. I haven't watched a Marvel film since Endgame. I'm off the gravy train. I'm done.
Yeah.
And so far, what I've heard, all of them are middling to just okay at best. And I have no desire to ever watch any of the recent Marvel movies since Endgame.
I mean,
no desire.
Everything from everything up to Phase 4, which is like, so Endgame was the end of Phase 3. So I watched everything apart from The Incredible Hulk, because that was kind of like, doesn't really have any impact on the whole.
Yeah, it does, because William Hurt is playing the same. His character shows up in Civil War. His character, I can't remember what it's called.
But in terms of like, from Phase 1 to Phase 3, it's telling it like a larger story, like it's all built into Thanos. Phase 4 kind of doesn't really do anything for me. I mean, I've watched Black Widow, which obviously she's dead anyway, so it's like a prequel anyway. So what's the point? I watched. I do like No Way Home, the Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, I heard that was like the last great one.
Yeah, I mean, the Shang-Chi, no interest. Eternals is meant to be absolutely terrible. It's just like dull as dishwater. I mean, I've not.
We better stop. We're losing viewers. Talk about Marvel, anyways. Forget Marvel. Okay. But I kind of want.
Slasher movies.
I know. I did kind of want to springboard because, like,
we got back up to 10.
I watched that film, The Gray Man. At first, I was like, I was so bombarded. I was just like, yeah, I guess it's fine. But then I kind of rewatched it with another friend, and I'm just like, dear Lord, this thing is just noise. It's just pure noise. Yeah. And one of the films I was going to bring up that I didn't really care for in the past, but I'm like, I'd rather watch that instead, would be like a film. I would much rather watch Virtuosity over The Gray Man any day.
Yeah, is that the one with Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe?
Yeah, it's
yeah. I've never seen it.
It's totally ridiculous. I could completely understand why people hate it. It's my kind of like a lot of people in the community love their horror movies. Whatever the title is, they just love it. I'm kind of that way with some action movies, like Virtuosity. I can watch that shit. It's ridiculous, but it's fun.
Was that the film that like Russell Crowe? Is that the film that made Russell Crowe like a big name?
No, LA Confidential is kind of what.
But I mean, but it was before LA Confidential, right? The film came out before LA Confidential. So was this the film?
We mentioned Virtuosity and Piz showed up.
But so this movie came out before LA Confidential, didn't it? Was this 95?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, 95.
Yeah, so this is the film that got him a big starring role in LA Confidential.
An American film.
Yeah. So basically, this film was good for something then.
Yeah, and he's giving it his all. He's completely acting crazy.
I've heard he does camp.
Oh, he camps it up. It's such a funny film because he's camping it up, and then you've got Denzel Washington, who is taking it completely straight. He's
Yeah.
100% serious, treating the film like any other film he would be in. It it's amazing. It's a film that's grown on me for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that film. I mean, it's always been like on a watch list, but I've never got around to seeing it because
Yeah.
I've always heard like bad things about that film. But I suppose
It's ridiculous. Keep it in mind that it's an over the top,
is it
action film of the time.
is it kind of like the Lawnmower Man? Does it play into that
Yeah,
virtual reality
yes, it
idea
does play
where
into because it's the same director, so it does play into it.
yeah, I
Uh,
mean
but
those
it's got the
that
virtual reality parts. Can I don't. You want to see it, so I won't spoil it for you. But I
oh
will say, Costas Mandalore is in the film in the beginning of the film.
okay
He was Hoffman, I think, in the Saw films.
yeah
But I was like, I'm like, who the heck is this guy? I'm like, oh well, it's freaking dude from. I'm pretty sure it's Hoffman. I know Lauren's gonna correct me because I know he's the big giant fan, but I was just kind of shocked because Christopher Young, did he do the Saw film? No, he didn't do. There was someone else. My bad, but he did the score for Virtuosity. So
because that time period like so it's like the early to mid 90s they were just trying to jump on the seat almost like early CGI. But remember like virtual reality has become like a bit of a thing now with the metaverse and Mark
yeah,
Zuckerberg trying
yeah.
to get everyone.
And
But
in
this was a
gaming
thing.
wise, it's gotten bigger.
But
Yeah,
I
we
remember,
started
like I
talking about
remember,
Virtuosity and we lost even more viewers.
yeah, I, I remember, I remember the early to mid '90s. That was kind of like the beginning of it. It was almost like virtual reality was like this new thing, and people were talking like this was going to be like a massive thing in the next 10 years,
hmm
and it never quite happened. It never quite happened to that point. But I just remember like a lot of these movies in the early to mid '90s were kind of they thought this was like going to be the next big thing, and maybe it will be the next big thing eventually in the next 10 years. But
Well,
they kind of like
it's definitely growing. It's like us the in gaming, it's gotten a lot bigger. Like there's the Oculus Rift, and PlayStation has their own version of VR that they just announced. Like they had a previous version, and they're making another one.
yeah,
So
but
it's coming back in style, baby.
it is in terms of like movies predicting the future. I mean, you look at Blade Runner. I mean, the original Blade Runner was set in 2020, right?
hmm
I think it hasn't quite panned out like that. The way it's getting there, but it's not quite. I mean, like Back to the Future. I'm still waiting on a hoverboard. You know, no
Well,
hoverboard.
what's
No, still
sad
waiting on flying cars.
what's sad is the film that got closer to our current day kind of reality, and you mentioned it before, is
Demolition
the
Man.
yep, Demolition Man.
Demolition Man. Oh
Taco,
man.
Taco
Yeah.
Bell or
Well,
Pizza
actually,
Hut. Pizza Hut's gonna take over,
well,
or Taco Bell.
we'll discuss. But it's '93, so
Oh,
me and
that's right. We
Chris.
don't want to spoil the.
Yeah,
I don't want to. We won't go into that
yeah,
anymore. But yeah,
yeah. Well,
Virtuosity. It's fun. It was fun. It was kind of fascinating how Chris Young, was doing the horror films when he first started, and then he just started doing action films like he did Rapid Fire with Brandon Lee. He did Hard Rain with Christian Slater. Virtuosity. He did some thrillers and stuff. It's pretty fun seeing all the stuff. He's one of those composers that gets really overlooked. And I believe it
yeah,
was Sean who brought him up, and yeah, Chris Young, awesome.
yeah. We'll talk about Demolition Man. I'll keep that for the '93 stream with Chris because that's a
Yeah,
film that is like pretty spot on with how pop culture and society's gone in general. So I'll keep that one for them. But yeah, I mean, Demolition Man is that is just
eerily prescient.
very much so.
Yeah,
And whatever happened to Dennis Leary? Where did he go?
he's doing all
Where
those
did he go?
Ice Age sequels.
Oh, is that
The
what he does?
animated
Is
film.
that
Yeah,
what he does?
voicing the saber-tooth tiger. Yeah, that's basically what he's been doing.
Didn't he get like accused of like ripping off Bill Hicks? Like literally ripping off Bill Hicks jokes, just like
I'm
word for
sure.
word.
I'm not knowledgeable on that subject.
Pretty sure he did. Because I mean, I love Bill Hicks. I think Bill Hicks is a fucking genius, but um, never really got Dennis Leary. Never like really listened to him. But if he was ripping off Bill Hicks, then fuck him, you know. But Piers says Morbius is number one on my list. I don't see anything unseating. What's this Morbius like? Morbius has sort of become like a meme.
Yeah, it's
and I don't really know why.
Piz is,
why is
I'm calling out Piz. He's just playing up the meme.
You know what's the meme now? I don't understand. I mean, it's
a film that
online.
It's a movie that no one really cares. No one went to go see, and everyone talks.
I
about
liked it. You know, I quite liked it. You know, I quite liked the film. I thought it was okay. Hot take, I know. I think it was. I've seen worse. I've seen worse than Morbius.
Now we're getting more viewers. We're talking about Morbius. What's the internet gone to? Back to slashers or something, or
They're making a sequel, I think.
Oh, please don't.
Yeah, just pissed.
But you know, it was kind of interesting because even kind of Cronenberg, you know, I mean, he started with he did the Videodrome, which was kind of a prelude to the virtual reality, and then he kind of followed it up. You know, he was striking while the iron was hot with the Existence, which is one of the only it's one of the only Cronenberg films I have not seen. Existence and Cosmopolis.
So you've seen Crimes of the Future?
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that either. So.
I won't spoil it. I don't like that film at all. No, I just not for me. Hated that film. Hated that film. It's not. I mean, maybe I don't get it, you know, in quotes. But even if I don't get it, even if I did get the film, to the point, I don't like the setup. Don't like the setting for the film. I love the Cronenberg films, but those just like, you know, it's hard to put a time frame on when the film's set. It's set in like the near future, but it feels like some sort of like abandoned sort of like town or city in the middle of nowhere. And I like those Cronenberg films with those cold sort of like built up city sort of settings, like Scanners, or if that makes sense. This just feels very, very remote and out of the way, and it doesn't feel. It's just not for me. I really, really, just not for me at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I'm not a fan of like his newer stuff. I mean, okay, his History of Violence it's not a new film, but it's still one of his more modern films. A lot more like run of the mill, you know. It's not like out there in terms of like ideas, but
do you like
History of Violence is.
Do you like Eastern Promises?
Yeah. I mean, I think that was like a double. Like, I think that came out a couple of years after History of Violence.
Yeah, back to back, 2 years apart.
Yeah, I think they were just two. I mean, especially History of Violence. Love that film. That doesn't feel like a Cronenberg film almost. It just feels like it's not like I mean, it feels like anybody could have directed that film, but not in a bad way against Cronenberg. It doesn't feel necessarily like a Cronenberg film. It feels very much like a more of a mainstream type of film, but done with that sort of added.
And it's one of his few films that kind of broke into the mainstream, because I remember seeing the adverts for that thing all the time back when it was coming out.
Yeah,
I remember my no, I'm not going to mention that. But yeah, it was you know, playing up because Viggo Mortensen was kind of riding off the high of Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I watched. You know what? It's like. Sorry.
What was that?
No, I was literally. It's you know, when you watch, you know, because we've got this like 93 live stream panned. Me and Chris. So I've been rewatching a lot of the films from '93, which I've not seen for a long time. And I rewatched Carlito's Way, and I've not seen that film since like like maybe 2000, and I
adore that
totally
film.
forgot that I totally forgot that Viggo Mortensen's in the film. So you know when you watch a film years later, you go, "Oh shit, there's Viggo Mortensen," and I completely forgot he's in the film.
Yeah, that was
It's just
he was showing up because
I must.
the first film I ever saw him was in. He was playing one of the background he was in the background of Witness, Harrison Ford film.
So the mid-80s then.
Yeah, he was
'Cause
playing one of the Amish guys fixing the house. I'm like, oh, there's Vigo. Vigalo.
I think the first film. I mean, he was in Chainsaw Massacre 3 as well, so that's like 1990.
Yeah.
I think that's the first film I've seen him in a like a sort of starring role. But I always thought he was foreign. You know, foreign as in not American. You know, like when Lord of the Rings first came
Mhm.
out. Because by when Lord of the Rings first came out, I'd long forgotten about Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, and I'd long forgotten that he was in that film. So I was always I thought he was like Swedish or Danish or something.
Well, like of course he had I would say like he had like supporting roles and stuff. Like I'm looking at his list, like in the Stallone film Daylight, uh, Crimson Tide, and GI Jane, and then he had a pretty freaking memorable part in The Prophecy. He was playing Satan in that one. He was pretty great. That was an
Prophecy.
incredible performance. You ever saw Prophecy
Um,
with Christopher Walken? He's
is it 95?
yes.
It's about 95. I may have seen it then.
Oh boy.
Probably. But if from the mid 90s, probably I've seen it. Yeah, but mine's a bit of a blur from that time with some films.
Whenever you do 95, that's one you got to catch up on.
Yeah, watched a lot of stuff back in the mid 90s, which I've never really rewatched. Hell of a lot of shit.
Yeah, well, because since you don't watch physical media, that kind of makes sense. That kind of why you wouldn't really rewatch all that kind of stuff. Those titles. So
Well, I
you
mean,
don't really
I've
own
got
any, like you don't have any DVDs from the past. You just got rid
yeah,
of them all.
no, I've got about 400, 500
Oh
looking
well,
at,
there you go.
but I just don't ever like bring them out. I've got like do you know what a loft is? A loft.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think you got. Did you got? Yeah, yeah. So it's like what do
They're
you
called
call it?
addicts.
Okay, so we cut a lot. So yeah, all my physical media is like up there, but just out the way in boxes,
Collecting
just waiting,
dust.
just collecting dust, just waiting for a time I can sort of bring it down. But as I say, it the what I own physical wise ended about 2007 when it just like the space was just like getting a little bit too, it was just too much.
Was
So eventually,
was Arrow Video putting out stuff around that time? Was that when they first started?
who?
Arrow Video.
I think they mid to late 2000s. I think they
I gotta say, it would
started doing
probably be
this.
later 2000s.
Yeah, I think so. Um, See, back when I was collecting DVDs, it wasn't really so much about.
Who was
I mean, I
releasing
don't
it?
know
It was
whether
just the movies you want to
it
see.
was. There was. I don't think there was that. The physical, even though physical media was more popular back then than what it is now, it's become more niche. I think companies are starting to get onto the fact that it's become more niche, so they're putting more into the what they do put out. Because like back in the early 2000s, you would just buy a DVD because you liked the film, and
Hmm.
if it had like a live commentary, that was like the holy grail. Well, it's got a live commentary, that's
Hmm.
good enough for me. It was only I think when really with the birth of like
Well,
Blu-rays,
yeah,
the steelbook
you
became.
got lucky because over across the pond over there, you got the Starman and Prince of Darkness commentary. Oh, They Live commentary as well because Carpenter had recorded a commentary with actors from each of those films. Jeff Bridges for
Yeah,
Starman, and then Prince of Darkness. It was with Peter Jason, I believe, and then was the other one. They Live was Roddy Piper. They did a commentary. So I was so elated when Scream Factory brought those commentaries over here. Because when I started getting into film, I'm like, oh, I love these commentaries. And I found I was like, son of a bitch, they're, you know, cross the pond. I got to import stuff. Damn it.
Yeah.
But luckily, that was
I mean,
right around the time when I started collecting stuff, and I'm just like, oh well, this company Screen Factory is going to start putting those out. So I was like, rock on.
I mean, the whole idea of like live commentaries, though, back in the day, it was kind of like it was always seen like the holy grail for like for a DVD, but it wasn't. You know, it all depends on who was doing the commentary because a lot of the commentaries were just like complete dog shit. It was just like maybe it could have been like the lead actor or just like somebody like goofing it up and just like not taking it seriously. You know, without getting any sort of real insight into the way the film was made. You know, what you really wanted from a live commentary was like the director or the screenwriter or whoever.
Yeah.
If you're given like an in-depth analogy of like, especially if it was like a thought-provoking film, you really wanted to get into it. I mean, I remember buying Collateral on DVD and having Michael Mann's commentary because I really wanted to, you know, get his thoughts. You know, the scene in Collateral with the coyote when it crosses the road and Tom Cruise is sat in the back seat and Jamie Foxx is watching. You get an Audio Slave, Shadow the Sun comes on.
Yep.
I really wanted to know what was the thinking behind that scene. And like Michael Mann, obviously he does the commentary for that film, and he goes into a little bit of detail about what the whole point of that scene was. And but he also leaves a little bit of interpretation as to how you might see that, you know, because in the comment section, certainly if you go on YouTube and watch that scene, everybody's got their own opinions about what that scene means. But I mean, I love that film. For me, it's just absolutely so good.
Yeah, Collateral. Collateral's I would say his last masterpiece. Michael Mann's last masterpiece. I enjoyed Black Hat. I'll admit it. I dug it. I know a lot of people hated that film, but I dug Black Hat. And then yeah, it's okay. I think it would have been better if Chris Hemsworth wasn't the lead in it. I think it would have been better film, but it was fine. And then Public Enemies was good. And I know a lot of people hate the Miami Vice movie, but I thought it was okay. And hello, Jess. But
hello, Jess.
Chris brings up a great point. The Arnie commentaries were always great, especially the Conan the Barbarian one is probably the best. That commentary is amazing. And then there's the Total Recall one. You see me, I'm doing this, and I look at shouting out, and she looking out. It's so great. I know it's terrible, but it's so fun. The commentary. My commentary, not the movie. Total Recall is awesome.
You know, in terms of physical media,
you know what? Sorry to talk over you, but that Total Recall is kind of the film that really kicked off the whole virtual, reality. Is it a dream or is it reality?
Yeah. That's a good point, actually. Because even like when I first watched the film, I was like, "What the hell?" It's like, "What's?" It was one of those like, as a kid, I was like 13. I was like, "Was it real? Was it not real?" It's just left a little bit confused.
Did you see that in the theater?
No. It was, I watched it on VHS. I was too young to watch it on the cinema because it came out in 1990. I was only like 13 in 1990. So
that's speaking of like Total Recall. Paul, sorry to cut you off, but Paul Verhoeven does great commentaries for most of his films.
Yeah, I don't mind seeing his commentary for Basic Instinct.
I haven't listened to that one yet.
I'm gonna wrap things up in like maybe the next 10 minutes, but just before we go, just in terms of like obviously talk about physical media. So at this point we're on like 4K is like, but maybe moving towards 8K.
We're not going 8K. 8K
you don't think so?
8K is gonna be streaming only. I guarantee. I have this big feeling 4K is going to be the last.
But who can possibly stream an 8K anyway? Who's got the?
Well, I'm just saying, just for future. That it's just for future wise, it's just going to be all upscaled to
Yeah.
8K. All the 4K content is just going to be upscaled.
Because my plan was, because like I've said, they've got 400, 500 DVDs in storage. Obviously, the long term plan is to have a room set up with and then I only really plan to buy then 4Ks and Blu-rays for my favorite like 50, 100 movies, and just keep it to that.
Got to get collateral on 4K.
Well, exactly, yeah. But I'm just thinking, because my idea was, I'm gonna get for my favorite films of all time, I'm gonna be buying 4K, and regardless of it 8K drops, I'm never gonna upscale to 8K. It's just it ends for me at 4K. It's just like I'm not going any more than that. And it's the one thing. It's when we went from VHS to DVD, we noticed the increase in quality. And then DVD to Blu-ray was a massive difference. I think, we could see a massive difference. And then obviously there was a difference between between Blu-ray and 4K, but to a lesser extent probably than the difference between DVD and Blu-ray. Surely there's a point where it's like the human eye can only like take in so much.
Oh yeah, I can't see it.
You can only go.
It's all about it's all about the transfers. It's not really about if there's if it's being if it's just pixel count. It's all about how well the transfer is, because like you have great 4K transfers that are far better than the Blu-rays, like Predator. Predator's like the best example of like of 4K transfer being far better than the Blu-ray, because they just DNR'd the hell out of that film on Blu-ray. But like you have others which are kind of only kind of a small incremental upgrade, like what's like a good example of just kind of just a decent upgrade. I'm trying to think, like, because they've been doing a pretty good job with a lot of films, bringing them to 4K. I will give a lot of these companies that they've been doing a solid job for the most part. But like, there's some that are kind of like, really, like the one I think of that was really disappointing for a lot of people. This wasn't 4K. This was just a 2K. But like the Blu-ray was like, there's a lot like the Color Money, with Tom Cruise, Paul Newman, Martin Scorsese film. It was essentially just a DVD transfer on a Blu-ray. They barely did anything to the they barely did anything to improve the transfer. It's just like, oh wow, we're gonna go cheap on this one. Oh, getting a knock.
Sorry, it's okay. It's all good.
All right. Well, I've been blabbering on. I'm gonna let you wrap it all up.
Yeah, that's my call to wrap things up now. So anyway, yeah, thanks for everyone who jumped on board tonight. Yeah, that's my call basically to go to bed. It is like 2:30 in the morning. So for everyone who jumped on board, thank you very much. Griff, thanks for jumping on.
No problem, man. It was awesome.
Week Friday 13 part 3 live stream.
Yeah, I can hop on with it. When are you gonna do it?
It's gonna be 7 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, okay, you don't want to do it around like 6 or something Eastern?
I could possibly. I'll have to speak to Chris, because Chris is in Central. I think Chris is in Central time.
Yeah.
So he would be 5 maybe. I'll see what Chris says.
Yeah, we'll have to work out. But if you need me, but you got Chris at least. He's the slasher movie expert, literally.
Okay. Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for joining the chat, and thank you, Griff, for jumping on. I will see you later. Goodbye.